Hello, everyone. Welcome to Boiler Ball Post Game in the Lounge. I know if you watch the Boilermaker Lounge, you're wondering why my office is in the background. Well, if you watched the game today, you know the fact that it was, um, blizzard conditions. Basically, I stayed home. So, but joined by Dustin Schutte and the All-American Grant Flora, gentlemen. 79-59, the Boilermakers put together pretty much a full entire game of pretty good dominating basketball.
Yeah, I feel like it was exactly the type of game we were talking about what Purdue needed in our preview when we talked about like just the strong defensive performance, and then they made some
Yeah.
shots, got out of their funk a little bit from maybe what they didn't do against Minnesota. So yeah, it was a great game.
Dustin, uh, can this be known as the Oscar Cluff game?
Yeah, legacy game. It was like it felt early on like that was going to be the case because he was just getting there was just no answer. And what was interesting to me is like for a majority of the game, or at least early in the game, Marquette didn't double him at all. They didn't seem to double the post. Interesting strategy, and that just set Oscar Cluff up for success. Like 22 points, 9 of 9. The underrated stat is 4 of 4 from the free throw line, 11 rebounds. I think he had two blocks was the end total for him. Yep. So yeah,
and two steals.
Yeah, right. If you want some foreshadowing, I think it was on Marquette's either their first or second possession. He had that steal around the perimeter, and then got fouled. Like
it was premonition.
Good day.
What's Cluff's free throw percentage? I feel like he's been making them well all season. I don't know if we have that, but it feels like he's been shooting the ball well, which I thought was impressive. Just given, whenever you have a big guy that can make free throws, I feel like you're in a good spot. But
they said in the broadcast it's above 70%.
He is 81.3% for the season.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty darn good. Yeah, he that's one thing. One of his most underrated aspects, I wholeheartedly think, is the fact that he can go. And when you've got a 6'11" dude that can sink his free throws, foul him. Well, yeah, get to the line. You know what I mean? So it definitely is an amazing stat that he shoots over 80%, which he shoots a lot better of a percentage than Braden Smith this season.
Yeah, I feel like Braden's been missing some free throws even lately. Like he just hasn't had him fall. Like,
almost every game he's missing one.
Yeah. I don't know what he shot today, but he definitely missed.
I thought he just shot 2. Was he? I thought he was 1 of 2 from the free throw.
He was 1 of 2, but he missed the front end of a 1-and-1, I do believe.
I keep talking as if I don't know. The stats are right in front of my face. If I just looked, I would know.
If you just opened your eyes,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. That first half, there were portions. Now, they jumped out to a pretty decent lead early, but just there seemed to be portions that there was real sloppiness in their offense, and it didn't seem that they let Marquette hang around, and then all of a sudden they went on a little run to boost it out to double digits. Do you think that's a concern? I still say they put together 20 solid minutes in that first half, even though there were sloppy points, because they turned the ball over early too. It was kind of sloppy in a lot of different spots. Either one of you, I don't care.
Okay. I in a perfect world, I feel like, yeah, you want everything to be smooth all the time. I feel like in just the way basketball is played, you're going to have some moments that just aren't great. But I noticed the same thing. I was like, are we going to see the same thing as Minnesota, where Purdue got out the first 2 minutes and looked good and then kind of fell off? But I thought the spurts just weren't as long, or the dry spells, I guess. And then they had some good plays. And then you had like Oscar Cluff that was just cleaning things up on the glass. I think that was a huge part of it, was second chance points that kind of made it seem a little better than it was. But I think the defense, just overall being so solid, also played a huge role, because even when they missed some possessions and had some rough offense, they were just creating turnovers and then would just keep it going, and they still made these big runs. So I think there's area for improvement, but like as far as I was concerned, I didn't think there were any crazy, like this is a big issue that we still got to focus on. But that's kind of my basic thoughts.
Yeah. Dustin, I saw you posted during the half that Purdue was like 1 of 8 from threes or something, but yet they still had a 16-point lead. Are you the same as Grant to where, okay, there were spots, but overall that's a pretty good half?
I think this has been the case in the last 2 games. Now, I think based on me counting, they were 2 of 6 against Minnesota in the first half, didn't shoot a lot in the first half from deep, and then today 2 of 10 at half. And I feel like sometimes they were 1 of 8 at one point, and I think they knocked down another one. Okay. But 2 of 10, and so it's just kind of one of those things to like Grant's point, in a perfect world, I think if you knock down just 2 more of those, you feel a little bit better. But when Purdue's not hitting threes, it seems a little disjointed almost. Like you kind of wonder what's going on. And you're just going to have stretches of I almost think it's a blessing in disguise that they ended up shooting 30%. I think they ended up shooting like 40% against Minnesota. They got things rolling in that second half. But when you don't shoot the 3 ball well, you have to find other ways to win basketball games. And Marquette's maybe not the best example of this, but the fact that they were able to establish Oscar Cluff and say, hey, go get us 2 points. And I give a lot of credit to Oscar because earlier this season, there were times he'd catch the ball and it looked like he just didn't know what to do with it. Like, what's the best option here? And today he was just like, screw this. I'm just going to go score.
Right.
And he was the aggressor. And then the more he was scoring, then I felt like he was more physical on the glass too. Like there were some times I thought, ooh, he might pick up a foul there. He didn't care. He was just like, I'm going to get a rebound. And so I don't know. I thought the offense felt clunky. The first 4 minutes, I think there were 7 or 8 turnovers between the two teams. It was just kind of a sloppy, ugly game to start. I thought Purdue settled in. They attacked what was working. And I think sometimes we get a little bit we're a little bit spoiled in how well Purdue shoots the 3 ball. And so then when they don't shoot it particularly well, especially when they're open, they had some open looks today and they just missed them. We kind of wonder what's wrong. But I think part of it is just if Purdue was shooting the 3 well and they shoot 15 and maybe they make 7 of it, it's like a 25, 30-point game at half alone, right? So
right.
I think part of it is just that, and this is going to sound dumb, but like 3 points are worth more than 2. And Purdue had to quote unquote settle for 2-point baskets today.
Yeah. Well, it certainly paid. And you talk about it's a little bit more blown out if they make the 3s instead of the 2s. If they also don't give up a 12-2 run to end the game because the ends of the bench are in, it's a 30-point game. So it said it was over the last 3 minutes and 35 seconds. Marquette went on a 12-2 run, but a lot of that was in the final portions of the game when the benches were cleared, and that's not knocking on the end of our bench. They just give up more points than the starters and stuff. So, I mean, this was a 30-point game. I mean, it really, all in, intents and purposes, was a 30-point game. You tweeted out that my favorite stat is the Oscar Cluff TKR rebound total versus the rest of the other team. Tonight it was 20-29 at Marquette out, but again, they had 2 or 3 trips down at the end of the game where they got 2 or 3 rebounds to kind of blow that back out to where Cluff and TKR were distance back, but for the most part, they had them.
I wish I would have kept track throughout the game because I keep saying I think. I just look at the stats, Dustin. You have them right here in front of you. Marquette finished the game with more offensive rebounds than Purdue, but I think at one time Purdue was winning 9-2. Now that one I don't have in front of me, but I think they were up 9-2 on the offensive glass. And so I don't know how many of those Marquette got in like the last 8 or 10 minutes when the game had already been decided. The other thing to me, and I don't know if this is concerning because we saw him play well, Daniel Jacobson did not rebound the basketball well, and this was a game where he should have.
I agree. He I think he only had 2 rebounds. I think is all he had, and I just reset my My stats. That's why I said I think. Yeah, two rebounds. See, I had the stats and I accidentally hit refresh and it went
I do that
and
sometimes.
went away. So, but yeah, it's he had. I'm shocked at that, but he didn't play as near as many minutes as Oscar Cluff. At the fact that Cluff was kind of the guy, or did he only play half the first half? Let me pull it up. Sorry.
Cluff only played 23 minutes. Jacobson played 16. Now I know.
Yeah.
Okay, he played 14 minutes in the first half. Cluff is what he. That's where. Okay, sorry. But yeah, Jacobson is a little off on today, but he. I don't know overall if I'm more concerned with that or just more happy with Cluff being dominant like he has been. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know how to classify that.
Yeah,
am I disappointed? Am I disappointed in Jacobson when Cluff did so well? I don't know.
Right. I thought Jacobson looked like maybe a step slow, even defensively. I think sometimes Jacobson just relies so much on his length to block shots that he doesn't move his feet as much at times. There were a couple times I remember thinking during the game while I was watching, just move your feet and get in position. Like you can still block, but
I do remember one.
Much
on that, Grant. I remember him following the guard around, but he just kind of stayed always a step behind him and kind of followed him and waited for him to put it up. So it kind of along the lines of what you're saying, he kind of almost intentionally played slow.
Yeah, I feel like I'd like to see him be in better position, like more consistently, and like still be able to block shots, but don't just kind of rely on that and allow yourself to be a step off. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
I thought the weird thing was he started off the game really well. Like he got an easy, I think it was an easy dunk, if I remember correctly. And then the second bucket was like he got the ball just inside the free throw line. I don't know who the defender was, but then he initiated, went looking for contact, gives a bump, creates some space, and then gets the little jump shot there. And he had 4 points really quickly. And it was like, okay, this is the Daniel Jacobson that Purdue needs to see. And he just, after that point, he struggled. He missed 2 bunnies, had some, I don't know if they were bad fouls, but probably fouls I'd like to see those again just to see, was he out of position? Was it just kind of sloppy or was he late? He had some plays that I thought he could get the rebound and just wasn't in good position. And I'm going to use the Matt Painter quote. It's hard to be consistent with inconsistent minutes. I don't know if it's just because he played only 6 minutes in the first half and couldn't get into a rhythm because Oscar was playing so well. I don't know because then he played the last probably 6 or 8 minutes of that game. Oscar checked out relatively early in the first half. But yeah, I thought Jacobson started off really well and then it just kind of teetered off. So it makes me wonder, was him being on the bench for probably a 12 to 14 minute stretch there, did that just kill his confidence and take him out of a rhythm, or was there something a little bit more? But that was, of the things to knock, that was probably number one. And Daniel's been really good in a lot of games this season, but this was just the one where I thought he could have been a little bit more aggressive on the glass.
Oh, we're coming off of you're making that statement after he's already had a 20-point game in the season. So we're being honest is what we're doing. He's just hitting a spot where he may not be productive, and it's just a really good thing that we've got our other center producing at a very high level to where it becomes domination. Omer Meyer, he's kind of in that Jakari Harris spot where he was, to where it's like his shots just aren't falling at great measures. Is this another? It's hard to be consistent with inconsistent minutes.
I would say yes to that. The one thing I will give Omer credit for is I don't think he loses confidence, and I don't want to put this on Jakari either. Omer's not afraid to shoot the basketball. He had that step back. He had a few, he'll take the shots if he's given the opportunity. Sometimes I think if they're in a funk, Jakari and CJ can be a little gun shy, more Jakari than CJ. So I'll give Omer credit there. I think that probably has a lot to do with it, because Omer's been really good. Was it the Baha Mar where he just went off, had one of those? So we know what he's capable of. Right. And if there's one player who doesn't let his poor shooting affect his game, I think it is Omer. Like, he had some sweet passes today.
Oh, yeah.
And he's really physical defensively. I don't think he always makes the best decision defensively, but he's always aggressive. I do think that there's probably something to that. When he gets more minutes, I think he's obviously more productive. And like I said, I just, the one thing I think that's a beneficial is him playing in Israel and EuroLeague. He's probably accustomed to coming off the bench and playing limited minutes or inconsistent minutes. So it doesn't seem to affect his confidence in the same way it maybe impacts Jakari or CJ or some of those other guys.
Yeah, the thing I would add to that too, I think you hit the nail on the head, but I think also when I watched him in like the U19 and the U20 or those two tournaments he played in with Israel, he just, as good of a shooter as he was and as good as he played offensively, I did think he was a little streaky. Just like when he got it going, he was unstoppable, but then he had some dry spells too. And so I feel like as a streakier shooter, coming off the bench and playing those inconsistent minutes just makes it harder to produce at a consistent rate. Like when you're playing 2 to 3 minutes at a time, just not getting in that rhythm. As somebody who seems to be streaky as it is, I can see how that would be difficult for him. That's just what I would add for that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I love what, again, he's like, to me, what we saw from Jakari last year, where you saw those glimpses of athleticism or things that he could be really great at. They're under there. They're there. We just got to get more consistent minutes. And Jakari's getting a few more minutes than he did last year, but it's still taking some time to get him going as well. But I think it's still inconsistent minutes, just like the other, like Meyer.
I do think there's going to be a point, and I don't know when this is going to happen, when Purdue's gone through a stretch where it's had, in my opinion, like you've had the starters play really well and then guys come off the bench maybe struggle a little bit. There are going to be some games when everything is clicking for everybody on the floor. Mm-hmm. I think the Texas Tech game was a prime example of that. And when that happens, they cannot be beat. Like, I think they are when that happens, they are the best team in the country when everything's working in their favor. And I think the law of averages at some point is just going to level out. Like, Jakari's a really good shooter. Omer's a really good shooter. And we've had a couple games. What I'm curious to see is this going to be a thing that we can see consistently? And that's not going to say that, you expect Jakari and Omer to average 9 points every single game, but is it going to be a thing where you start to see them be more efficient, I guess, on a consistent basis? Because that's the team that, if they are consistent or efficient on a consistent basis, that's what's going to set them ahead, because they've got so much depth, so much ability, and so much talent. So I don't know. This was to me kind of a hard game to judge because Marquette's really bad. But I also think at the same level, like, I just love the fact that Purdue was able to go inside and they weren't afraid to, like, they didn't settle. I didn't think. Yeah,
no, I agree. They didn't settle for anything really. They drove the narrative. They controlled this game for, I'd say, 91% of the game. I mean, like, they controlled what Marquette was going to do. They controlled what they were doing for a great portion of this game. That's why I went to to the length of saying, if Marquette doesn't go on the 12-2 run, this is a 30-point game. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly, and Grant mentioned this at the beginning, exactly what he and I were saying yesterday on Boilermaker Lounge, saying Purdue needs to win this game by 30, but they need to have two dominant halves, which is why I kind of brought up and asked, did they still dominate that first half, even though they had some sloppiness,
And I'll let Grant talk because I feel like I've talked a lot over him. But I think you can say yes, because I didn't think that first half, and I don't think this about either half, and this is going to sound really disrespectful, I didn't think Purdue, at least offensively, played anywhere close to their best basketball, and they still won by 20 points, and they had a 16-point lead at half. So if you could, like, that to me, I thought was that, that's a really good sign. And I know Marquette is below where they normally are, but if you shoot 2 of 10 from 3, which is usually, Purdue's, if you are in the 40% range, you feel pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You're 2 of 10. You struggled with turnovers. I don't know what their first half turnover total was, but they struggled.
I'll be able to tell you here in just a second. Keep talking.
Okay. I was going to say they struggled with turnovers in the first half. And I thought it was a relatively ugly first half, and they were still up by 16 points. That's
eight turnovers in the first half.
So they had what, 2 the rest of the game?
4.
Okay.
Yep, they ended up with. I'm seeing 14 as their total. So they
14.
had
I think
6 in the second half. But again, end of the bench, end of the game type turnovers.
Yeah, and it's kind of what I was going to talk about too. But when we kind of talked about the Iowa State game, and we kind of talked about how Purdue, they weren't getting their shots to fall. They were struggling, and they were like playing through their offense, and it was affecting their defense. And I was like, as much as I want to see Purdue come out against Minnesota and then Marquette and just light it up, win by 30 or 40, and just have everything go right, like those definitely would feel good about that. I also want to see them have kind of an off night where maybe they're not shooting well, but they still find a way to dominate the game because they're controlling what they can control. And I feel like we saw an element of that in this game because they went 2 of 10 the first half, and things didn't go perfectly for them offensively, but they still rebounded the ball. They still played great defense. I mean, Marquette had 21 points at halftime and was being held the majority of that second half until some new personnel got in the game. So while Marquette's not as good of a team, and we still need to see Purdue do that to an Auburn or a Big Ten opponent like Michigan or Michigan State, I think we saw the element of, hey, our offense isn't necessarily perfect, but we're playing through our defense, and our energy and intensity is coming through the defense and the rebounding and those controllable aspects of the game.
I can't say it better. I'm not even going to add to it. That was you two nailed it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Well, this was the first step in the 2 that you and I, Grant, talked about, of at least in my heart of hearts, what would make me think, okay, that Iowa State thing was an anomaly. It's not anything that you need to be aware of it, but it's not a trend or whatever. Now they need to go play Auburn, and like you said, and have to produce win by grit, basically, right? Okay, and so if they are only win against Auburn by 5 or 6, and it's a good game back and forth, I'm still going to feel good because Auburn's a darn good basketball team, and if you can beat them after having a struggle, after then putting a couple of games together where you pummel the teams that you should pummel in ways that are creative or whatever, you go beat an Auburn team by 10 points going away at the end. I think the Iowa State game, you remember it, but you don't worry about it being a trend, I guess.
I think one of the things the Iowa State game, I think people get carried away, and I understand it. Like, Purdue doesn't get beat like that in Mackey Arena. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
But at the same time, like, that was a game where in the second half, Iowa State could not miss and Purdue could not hit a shot. And so, like, it was legitimately, not to use the pun here, but it was like the perfect storm that given day.
That's more of a cliche, not a pun.
You know what, Sam?
Okay, fair enough. Sorry.
But it was, no, you're good. You're correct. I just, but it was just one of those where Iowa State could do no wrong and Purdue could do no right. And when those two things clash, we've seen Purdue on, like, look at last year. Michigan was a really good basketball team, beat Purdue twice. Purdue ran Michigan out of the gym because Purdue in Mackey Arena, because Purdue could not miss and Michigan could not hit a shot. Like, I think there were other factors obviously involved, but sometimes those just happen, and chalk that up to basketball. But one of the things Matt Painter said, I missed what you said.
I said Trey Donaldson. Was the light under their fire.
That was the difference.
Well, you remember that, right? Where he said it's not going to be a big deal to go play in Mackey. I've played at Rupp.
I did not, actually.
Yeah, going in because he transferred from Auburn. He's like, I've played in some tough places in the SEC. Going into Mackey's going to be nothing, and oh my goodness.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I did not know that. So that would light a fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So But Matt Painter said something interesting about after the Minnesota game was basically, the way the defense kind of changed in the first half and the second half. We can go back and compare, look at the difference when we did our job defensively and look at the difference when we didn't do our job. I think you can also apply this type of game to later down the road, to where if you're going to have to play a physical game that maybe a team that doesn't, is really good at defending the three, you can put on the Marquette clip and say, remember how we won this game with our defense. We won this game by getting the ball in the post. So that's why I say, I think even though you would have liked to see more shots fall just to get their confidence, I think Purdue being able to win this game with their defense, holding Marquette to like 33% from the floor, and then getting the ball inside to Cluff and Trey Kaufman-Renn was solid. I think that's a benefit, because you can reflect on this and say, this is how we won the Marquette game. This is how we're going to have to win this game, especially if shots aren't falling against whoever, Michigan State, Illinois, Nebraska, somebody down the road.
Well, and I think you can use the loss against Iowa State the same kind of way, to where, like, look, these are things we need to change and stay away from.
I guess that was my point. Like, you can compare, like, we didn't do our job against Iowa State. Yes. To clarify, we didn't do our job well against Iowa State. This is what we need to do when we run into the same situation. And it's just, it works out the fact that Iowa State's really good and then ran Purdue out of its own arena, and Marquette is not really good. And Purdue was able, to kind of do the same thing. So I think that you can use those and compare them and say, this is what happens when we're playing a good team and we don't do what we're supposed to do. But here's what it can look like if we rebound, don't turn the basketball over, and we get in and establish ourselves in the post.
Sorry, my 12-year-old brain just went to talking about pun and cliche for a second, and then I thought maybe I missed you making the Iowa State comparison.
I probably did not make the proper proper statement there, leading up to that.
Because I was trying to think, is that a pun? Did I mess up? Did I correct him in the wrong way? And you see where my mind goes every once in a while. So, well, Purdue gets a week off now, and then they go to Indy to play Auburn. Your thoughts? I mean, Dustin, you won't be on the post game next week. You'll be traveling probably, I think is what you said. Or are you gonna? You're not going to the game. I know that.
I don't know what's happening, Sam. This is a game time decision for me. It depends on how the volleyball team does.
That's true.
A lot of factors involved here. So it could be in Kansas City. I don't know. So we'll hold.
You haven't decided yet for this. I'm sorry.
Correct.
You and I were talking yesterday. We were talking about that game, but we were also talking about the game in West Lafayette today when we were trying to decide. We were talking about decisions, and I thought you said so. I screwed up. Sorry.
No, you're good.
But 1 week. No, there was no question. I was just saying next week, Purdue plays Auburn at it's at Cambridge, right?
Yes.
In Indy. Yeah. I was going to say I didn't think they would do Lucas Oil for us, thinking one game matchup there like that. It's got to be like the Final Four for that or something.
Yeah.
Which they'll play in Indy later this year. So 39.
Yeah, look at their Lucas Oil time.
Yeah, 39-1. We're still on track for that. But no, big win for the Boilermakers today. 79-59, not even that close. I love saying that. It's a 20-point win, and it wasn't even that close. And that is Jess Settles on the call there on Peacock said, these guys just know how to win. And that's not a cliche in the fact of that's true. Dustin, you calculated almost 20% of Coach Painter's wins have come from these seniors that are on the team this year. That's mind-blowing.
Yes and no. I mean, he said it in the locker room,
mm-hmm.
And I was like, there's no way that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, Dustin, you did the math. I know you did the math, so that's.
I wish I could remember what the math was, but I think it was like right around 19.
Well, at that point, it was 96 of his total, or I think you said it was like 86 or 80, 91. Like there was
I think it was in the 90s,
but like 91 or 2 wins from this senior class.
They probably averaged like 28 the past 3 years. So
Mhm.
there's, 84 right there, plus 10, 94.
You
roughly.
see this math on his brain right now?
Holy.
Jeez.
I thought about this before, by the way.
Oh. You've done some pre-workout on that math problem. So, but yeah, I mean, they do. They just win, and they find out ways to win. One last thing that I was going to say, this is kind of an incomplete stat because I don't remember if they said it was during Painter's 20 years or what time frame this is. Purdue's 139-10 in non-conference games at under Matt Painter.
139-10.
I'm imagining
Overall?
it's the 20 years. I imagine it's the 139. It would have to be Mackey, maybe.
It's got
because they just don't lose. You know what I mean at home. I believe it was at Mackey. Yes.
Okay.
I believe you, but I also don't believe you.
It was on Peacock. I'm telling you.
It was at games at Mackey.
Mackey.
Okay.
Mackey.
Gotta be that.
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say because there were 2
Sorry,
years.
I told you it was kind of an incomplete stat there, didn't I? I wasn't wrong. I mean,
well, the snow is affecting all of us, even though there's none where I am.
But yeah, I mean, it was. I read that and I'm like, but yes, it's at Mackey. I did see that, so I apologize. I didn't state that. It's at Mackey. So during his 21 years in Mackey or at Purdue, they're 139-10 at home against non-conference opponents.
Who would have been their last non-conference loss before
prior to Iowa State?
It was Texas back when it might have been that first Jaden Ivey year when he was a freshman and they were kind of he's still figuring things out. I think it was that year, but it definitely was that year or before that even is when it would have been.
That would be a good call. The only other one I could think of, and maybe there's one but it was the game they played Villanova.
I remember
and PJ Thompson hit the half-court shot right before halftime, and I think they ended up losing by 4 or 6 or something. It was a close game, but I remember them losing that one. But outside of that, I don't even remember the Texas game really. I believe you, but I don't remember that game specifically.
I don't remember it. I only know that I've heard broadcasters, people talk about it as it was a Texas game. I don't remember the game at all either, actually.
I was just doing a real quick. I typed exactly what I was coming into my mind, and now they're not giving me actual. They haven't given me any actual stats here. Thanks.
Giving me nothing.
I typed in all that, and you give me this long, drawn-out paragraph, Mr. AI on Google, and you don't give me a total record. You suck. But it's really good.
Yeah.
It's 139-10. I mean, and they're also talking about the fact that Matt Painter scheduling whoever wants to play. They're playing a tough schedule. It happens this year that Marquette's not going to be that great, but Alabama was. Auburn's going to be. All these teams. Iowa State's a darn good team. That's a good. Even though they got housed, it's a good game to have under your belts for when you get into March and you can. Maybe defend those things a little bit better or shoot a little bit better,
So Grant is correct. They did lose to Texas but it was 2019-20.
Oh.
Which would have been a year before Ivy, because I think Ivy's first year was that COVID year.
Yeah.
So that was the year after Carson Edwards, when it was the year that got cut short by COVID when Purdue had a rough season. That makes sense.
Yep.
But that was the last time that they lost a non-conference home game.
That's what I'm looking at. And because I don't know if they played 2021. That was at Miami.
And that one was the last loss for home or away.
Yeah, I think that
for
Texas
3 years.
So 2009, it looks like, I'm not going to go through every season, but unofficially, the loss to Texas in 2019, 70-66, would have been the last non-conference loss at home.
Grant was still in high school.
Prior to Iowa State. That's 19, 20, 20, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24. That's 6 years.
I was a freshman in high school. I wasn't just in high school. I was a freshman.
You were new into high school.
Yeah.
Well, so that 139-10 non-conference home record seems legit then, huh?
Yes, it does. Yep.
And probably a couple of them losses came early on in Painter's career when he didn't have a lot in the program. So you're probably in the last 15 years, you're probably looking at maybe only 3 total or 5 total losses there.
And I feel like even like the 2 years they had where they were like bottom of the Big Ten, kind of before they got AJ Hammonds and those guys, like I'm pretty sure they lost to some pretty like mid-major type teams at home that year. So there's a couple of them.
I remember they lost one under Hummel, like with Hummel to Wofford when the freshman 3 were there. And then I know they lost to Bucknell to start the season one year.
I remember that one too.
Those are the only other 2. We're just going back and we can count all of Purdue's non-conference
between the 3 of us.
Home losses in our hands, and we
hands.
just named 4 of them, 5 of them if you count Villanova. So we got to figure out the other half now.
Well, anybody that watches this, put it in
there if you know.
Send us what you know, not what you think, what you know. But all right, well, that wraps up Boiler Ball post game in the lounge for today's game. Purdue, number 6 in the land, probably move up maybe 1 in the polls. Honestly, don't
probably
care.
Depends, what happens in front, but
at the very least, Dustin, they shouldn't drop in the poll.
No, I wouldn't think so.
After a couple of pretty big wins, but 79-59 over Marquette today. They're off for a week, so we'll be back with a post game next Saturday. But thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.